There's a great woman that I met recently, and she coaches moms of kids with autism to improve their own lives and improve their own reactions in the middle of problem behaviors. Her name is Lisa Candera, and today we're talking about her interview. Hi there, I'm Dr. Mary Barbera, autism mom, behavior analyst, and bestselling author. Each week, I provide you with some videos about turning autism or signs of autism around. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do that now. Today, we are sharing a small excerpt from podcast 213 with Lisa Candera, who's a mom to a 15-year-old with autism. He also has OCD, and Lisa is a practicing attorney, but she also is a life coach for other autism moms. And let's get to this little clip. What are the unique challenges that single parents have, single moms and particularly?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because I have single moms and I have couples in my, moms who are married in my practice. And I would say one of the challenges I see, I'll start actually with my married couples and me also when I was married, is the people not being on the same page. Sometimes that can be difficult, right? Like one parent has one way of responding to a behavior and another parent has another way. And so, and then when both parents are kind of elevated, right, trying to broker like what that's going to look like, which is really hard because like when you're in an elevated state, when you're in a fight flight state, you're not listening like for other people, like, right, you're not available for it. And so one of the things that I work with my couple clients on is like how you can communicate wants and needs when you're in a regulated state. So that means some planning. That means before shit hits the fan, you're talking about this stuff, right? And so what I see, what my biggest challenge for myself is, like, one of the easiest things about being a single parent is I get to make all the decisions. One of the hardest things about being a single parent is I get to make all the decisions, right? It's like that idea, and I have felt this so many times, of like not having anyone to hold it with, these huge responsibilities, medication, hospitalizations, out of district placements. That's and so what I teach my clients, single moms, married moms, is that when you make a decision, how you can have your own back, how you can commit to supporting yourself through that process, no matter what. Because so many of my clients, and I think this too, is like there's a right or wrong decision. And it's like, well, how do you know it's right or wrong? You don't. You're just making a decision based on what you know now, your best information. And your job is to commit that in the future, you're not going to go back in time and slap the shit out of yourself because, oh, it didn't work out, right? Like you really have to commit to having and supporting yourself, because we make so many decisions in this journey. And that if we are always undermining, always doing that to ourselves, we erode our own confidence and our own ability to make decisions.
Yeah, I love that. And there are so many decisions, even without autism in the
Oh,
picture,
yeah. Yeah.
and every single decision will make will change the trajectory of your life. But then when you add autism and then, COVID and OCD, and it can get quite overwhelming. But I like what you said about like, don't second guess yourself. Don't constantly be beating yourself up like I shoulda, woulda, coulda, because it's like, you got to move forward. And if that doesn't work, take data. And in fact, when you were talking,
Exactly.
Trying to convince the doctors that the medication was having side effects that they weren't, aware of or weren't seeing, is I have a system, and I talk about it in my book and a couple places, and I have a short video blog, which I want to link in the show notes, but it's basically taking a physical calendar. So I just got my 2023 calendar a couple weeks ago, and we keep track of medication changes. We keep track of any sleep irregularities, any behavior problems, even slight agitation, and doctor's appointments. And I literally bring this physical calendar with me to doctor's appointments. And because of that, we also know that Lucas needs allergy shots. He's on his like over 10th year of allergy shots because we know that his
Yeah.
behaviors can go up. We know that he's a rapid metabolizer of indole, which is he's on for fight or flight. So he goes into fight mode. I actually, since I've been a little kid, have passed out from pain and stuff like that. So we're a bad combination. Like, thank God we got Lucas's major problem behaviors, down
Right.
to
Right.
zero, like especially his aggression to zero, because I'm like, he's going to physically hurt me and I'm going to pass out and die.
Well, it's so funny you say that about the calendar because, like I said, I'm an attorney, and I don't. For years, I was doing white collar, internal investigations, or I worked for the government, and I did investigations for them too. And so the lifeblood of any investigation was a chronology. And so I literally have a chronology on my own child, like date of appointment, what the person said, what happened, right? And so when I'm talking to these doctors and I'm like scrolling through, I'm like, listen, I'm hearing you and I'm seeing this data. So let's talk.
Yes. Yes. Cool. All right. So on your website, you have three it's a very good website, actually.
Yeah.
But three do you wonder whether you are doing the right things or giving enough support to your neurodivergent child? So we talked a little bit about that, like when your children are very little, even with my approach and my book and courses and stuff, I'm like, it's really great if you can take action immediately at the first signs and start turning things around as best as possible. But it's also never too late. But, how do you support moms who feel like, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things?
Yeah. So I like to back it up with them and just be like, of course that's what you're thinking. Right. And of course, and so it's like, you're in a fear response, right? You are being hyper vigilant. You are trying, you're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to protect your child. And so your mind is just going to everything I can possibly do. And what I say to them is, when will you know it's enough? Right? Like, when will you know? And it's like, well, and sometimes what the answer is, it's like, well, when they catch up or when they're normal. Right. And so it's like, let's just get that out on the table. Right. I was like, but what if the goal, right, isn't right? Like, it's like, what is the goal here? And so for some parents, it's like, I want them to be on par with like their neurotypical peers. And it's like, okay, but let's just like unwrap that. Like, they're not neurotypical, right? And so like being like I don't want to say realistic, like in downplaying it, but it's like you're putting a lot of pressure on all of these things that you're doing to create these certain outcomes for you. And you're not going to that's just going to drive you crazy, right? And so like I really just try to talk to them about like, what's the next right thing for your child? Like, what do they need right now? And how can you provide that? Right. And it's like, that's all you really can do, right? Like, it's like, you can try like lots and lots of things all at once, but like that's most likely going to bombard your child. It's going to overwhelm them. And so it's like, of course you feel this way. You are afraid that you are behind. You are afraid that there is something wrong, that there's something to catch up on. Like, what if you can just slow that down and just focus on what you're doing? Because I find that when parents do that, they actually get more results than when they're sort of harried and they're trying to like, let's do this and let's do that. And like, and they're just consuming and consuming. And like, it's like, it's not sort of landing as much.
Yeah. And they're spending night after night, going over the internet. And
Yes.
we have actually an episode coming up in the next week or two with Ruth, who just joined my online course maybe 2 months ago, but she told me that she listened to every single one of my podcasts. I was like, what?
You're like, I haven't done that.
Over 200 podcasts, over 1 million downloads, and she's listened to every single one of my podcasts. And she told me that right after she joined my course, and she has a 5-year-old. And I was like, you have to get out of the quote unquote sea of free,
Yeah.
and start taking like action, one step by step, because you can spend a lot of time, floating around and questioning, and,
Absolutely.
even like medications and placement. You don't want to try all of these things at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, try something, give it a good try, take good data, and see if it's working. If it's working, it will motivate you. I hope you enjoyed that small excerpt from podcast 213 with Lisa Candera. I know I love the podcast. If you want to listen to the whole thing, check below. And if you want more information about how you can learn how to increase talking, decrease tantrums, work on eating, sleeping, potty training, and more, attend a free workshop to see if joining our online course and community is right for you. And I'll see you right here next time.